Yeah, okay, so I'm Anne, without the E, just, my mom is Hakani, and she's very clear, right, so, and without the E, it's very important, so that's what I stand for. But otherwise, yeah, I'm chairperson of Persatuan Penulis Berbilang Bahasa, the country's official association of multilingual writers, also known as PEN Malaysia. Now, we're actually aligned to PEN International as well, to any organization that will support our aims. And PEN International stands for Poets, Essayists and Novelists, at least in 1921. It's the oldest global and only UN recognized writers association. And that doesn't, well, yeah, some may say that doesn't count for much, in the sense that with what's happening in the world. But yeah, PEN has its problems. It's Eurocentric. It's very white, very male. But basically, it is the only writers' association that can relocate, depending on the level of persecution, a writer to another country in order to continue their writing. So this is what 100 over centers stand for: celebrating literature and defending freedom of expression. Now, No Her Words, which is the kind of payung under which we are all today, is actually an initiative by PEN International, and it's to celebrate contemporary literature, including women. Now, of course, you might say, well, we have plenty of winners. We've got Prita, we've got Karina, we've got all kinds you can mention. But the idea is that this leads to conversations also about the kind of systemic problems, not just the sort of cosmetic, if you like, change. So, of rights, for example, of the girl child in school to read and write. And I'm very happy to say that one of the books in the 10 chosen by PEN Malaysia, and we'll say more about that, is an anthology of 17 young Orang Asli women writers called Kami Pun Ada Hak Bersekolah. We also have the right to schooling. And one of them, Yana Binti Lenap, is here today, and she will read her own piece. And we can say, trying to pick 10 books when there are, according to Professor Emerita, at least 140 languages spoken every day in Malaysia. How tricky is that? Well, we decided to go with 6 languages: Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa Malaysia, Chinese, English, Iban, Kadazan, and Tamil. But before I go on, I'd say a little bit more about the books themselves. I would like to introduce you to Nadira Ilana, who is head of women writers at PEN Malaysia, and she was the person who led the whole project. So please welcome Nadira.
Thanks, Anne. Kopi Sanangan. My name is Nadira Ilana. I'm a Dusun filmmaker from Kota Kinabalu. I would like to begin today with a land acknowledgement, and to acknowledge that foremost that we are on Orang Asli land. And I would also really like to thank PEN Malaysia for picking up the slack, because after I did the list, put together the list with the help of basically a lot of our members, but also the writers of the members within the writing community as well, did so much to contribute to the selection of this list, the nominations. But the rest of PEN Malaysia had to pick up slack once I did the handover, because I just had a lot on my plate. But otherwise, so coming back to the list and how it was chosen, so diversity and inclusion is a subject that's very close to my heart, because as a Dusun person as well, I come from a language that is not necessarily written. And even though there's an emphasis with PEN Malaysia for Persatuan Penulis Berbilang Bahasa, but in spite of this, it was very affirming in some ways to see that while we were not able to get an entire diversity of different types of languages, that process in itself can be kind of tokenistic, because the thing is just like, the thing about minorities as well. Firstly, I was not able to read every single book because they were in different languages. So it's wonderful that we're all able to kind of collectively read this together, because it takes a community, I suppose, you know, to be able to embrace but also carry this kind of diversity. But secondly, also, well, what I was saying earlier about it being affirming is just that you learn that with minorities especially kan, sebab kalau kita tulis dalam buku kan sebagai minority, benda ni dia tidak selalu natural, dia tidak rasa macam itu bukan kebiasaan, dan selalunya kalau kami macam cuba tulis dalam bahasa kita sendiri, macam kamu boleh dengar suara orang lain, bangsa orang lain, it feels that way in a sense. And so you have so some of the books that are written especially by the indigenous peoples, you'll find that they were written either dalam bahasa Melayu ataupun English because of the desire to just be understood. So those are some of the things that kind of like, how do you say, transcend, I guess, the, you know, language in itself, that minorities have to almost translate ourselves. And then for women to have to translate our experiences on top of that also, I think is what makes this particular list, well, the pursuit of coming together with this list, it just felt like a pretty important mission overall, and I'm very proud that at the very least, like, we got to hand this over as well to PEN International, so the global writers community as well will have access to these books. So that being said, thank you.
Ghost. I don't grant wishes, the ghost said hurriedly. Fairy godmothers. She wouldn't want one of those if she really knew fairies, he thought, with an indignant sniff. Stories he could tell. Soraya's expression moved quickly from eager anticipation to resignation, with a quick stop and disappointment in between. Oh well, she said, with the air of one used to life's many letdowns. I suppose you can't help that. She paused to scratch the tip of her nose. So what's your name? My name? Duh. She dragged out the one syllable until it sounded like at least 6. Everyone has a name. See? Like this. She gestured to the rag doll next to her. This is Nana, and that one's Bingo, and that one's Ariel like the princess, and that one's Saloma like the pretty lady in those boring old movies Mamian loves to watch, only I call her Sally because Saloma is just too long, and that one's Soraya II because she's going to rule the kingdom after me, and that one's... The chatter went on, but the ghost barely heard it. Nobody, as far as he could remember, had ever asked him for his name. The witch had only ever addressed him as you, as in, you, go and rot this farmer's entire crop of bananas, would you? Or, you, I need you to give this woman nightmares all night, so that her competitor wins the beauty pageant. There was a pause, while Soraya took a breath, and he quickly spoke before she could get going again. I don't have a name. She gasped, looking shocked. You don't? I don't think so. The ghost felt strangely embarrassed by this, and had to remind himself that ghosts don't have feelings. That's okay, she said, reaching out a hand to pat him consolingly on one scaly paw. I'll think of one for you. I'm super good at names. I named all my toys all by myself. And I named that orange cat that likes to come around and steal our fried fish from the kitchen table. He's called Chomel now. Chomel? Means cute, she explained seriously, as if he didn't know. 'Cause he's cute. She tilted her head to one side, frowning as she stared at him, her tongue poking out the side of her mouth, her hand still clutching a bright pink crayon. The ghost could not help feeling nervous. Names, he knew, existed to give shape to the nebulous, ground the unknown in a comforting reality. He did not think he could cope with being called cute. Then Soraya brightened. I know, she shouted relievingly. Please don't be Chomel, please don't be Chomel, please don't be Chomel. Your name is... Pink! Pink? It was much worse than he had feared. Yes! She climbed up onto her bed and began to bounce up and down. Pink! I am a dark spirit, the ghost said desperately. I am a powerful being. I have the wisdom of the ages. I cannot be called Pink. But you are! You're pink! He sat down heavily on the tattered carpet and sighed. But why am I pink? Because, Soraya shot him such a withering look that he felt rather silly for asking. That's my favorite color. She slipped off the bed and ran up to pat him on the cheek. You'll get used to it, she told him. It's a good name, a very good name, maybe the bestest I've made so far. A good name as many, I suppose. Outside, they heard the quick, light step of Soraya's mama. Quick, hide, she hissed, and the ghost, now known as Pink, quickly shrunk back down into his grasshopper form and popped into the pajama pocket Soraya held open for him, just as the door swung open. The woman took in Soraya's bright eyes and feverish cheeks and pursed her thin lips. What games have you been playing in here? Nothing, Mama, Soraya said. Just drawing. The woman's eyes scanned the room as if she were looking for something, and the ghost felt Soraya's little fingers move protectively over her pocket. At last, finding nothing, the woman looked at Soraya. Well then, time for bed. Go and brush your teeth and wash your feet, or you'll have nightmares. Don't forget to say your dua. Okay, Mama. The woman swept off back down the hallway toward the living room, where a stack of papers waited to be marked before a flickering television stand. And there she stayed for a long, long time, never smiling, even as the laugh track played artificial chuckles over the bumbling antics on the screen, her red pen scratching and scribbling busily, as Soraya and Pink slept curled up against each other on her narrow bed. And that was The Girl and the Ghost.
I'm going to read a short extract about that most said that 200 years ago, the British shipped Indian prisoners to this country to work in chain gangs. How dark-skinned, how scary those prisoners. Wherever they went, the clinking sounds of the leg irons preceded them. Clink, clink, clink. The locals called the prisoners Kaling. Over time, the pejorative stretched to include all dark, scary ethnic Indians. This evening, Makza, who is my friend, who sells the crunchiest, tastiest pisang goreng this side of Kuala Lumpur, who is the bubbliest, warmest person I know, calls me Kling. It slaps my face. I've never been called Kaling before. Kaling have always been other people. Pak Din, her husband, who normally greets me with a smile and joke, looks ravished for some angry sorrow. He packs my pisang goreng in a bag, hands it to me, collects the money, and retreats to the back of the stall without looking at me, without saying a single word. Makza sits on a stool at the back of the stall, her hands gripping a smartphone on the table. Some preacher's battling hate on speakerphone, and he has an entire attention. I catch bits of him, greedy voice, exhorting his listeners to watch out for enemies who are planning to kill the faithful and take over the country. Out of sheer kindness, because we are a gentle people, because we are a good people, we allowed these people into the country. We allowed them to live, to work, to prosper. But what did they do? They scorned our kindness. They took our wealth, took our lands, and now his voice rises in a high-pitched shriek. And now, as if that isn't enough, these infidels are planning to kill us and take over the country. Surely no one believes that, Bilt, I think. How are you, Makza? I call out. And at once she jumps up as if on fire and cries to her husband, why is that Kaling still here? Kaling. I should let it go, but I'm rooted to the ground, too stunned to be angry. What did you call me, Makza? My voice is low. She looks away, her mouth set in a straight line, 2 spots of pink high on the cheeks. Her husband mumbles, nothing, it's nothing. He gestures with his hands for me to move along. Go away, be quick about it. Kaling. I am 36, tall, slender, chocolatey brown, educated, attractive, even exotic, if you look at me from a certain angle. Kaling has always been other people, other Indian Malaysians, comfortable narratives to feed the disdain of other races. Kaling are the darker ones, the stupid, lazy, drunk, fighting on the road ones, the gangsters, the drug pushers, the ones from the estates, from squatter areas, from city slums, low life, smelly, dirty, filthy, black cling. All soothing stereotypes that exist, inexorable in the minds of others. Landlords who won't rent out to Indians, mothers who frighten their kids to the black bogeyman. They exist in the hearts of ordinary, otherwise decent folk. They need the cling. I do not know until Mazar tells me that I too am cling.
Ini cerita dari saya sendiri. Jangan hina orang asli. Pertama kali saya masuk sekolah, saya ditemani oleh ibu saya. Sehari ibu menunggu saya di sekolah kerana saya tidak biasa di sekolah. Selepas itu, saya memberitahu ibu saya beliau tidak perlu menemani saya ke sekolah kerana saya ingin berdikari. Kedua, persekolahan, saya mula berdikari tanpa ditemani oleh sesiapa. Saya mula berkawan dengan bangsa lain seperti Cina, India, Melayu dan bangsa saya sendiri. Saya berkawan tidak mengira agama dan bangsa. Saya gembira mendapat ramai kawan di sekolah. Kawan-kawan saya melayani saya dengan baik sekali. Selepas itu, saya mula berpindah sekolah kerana saya nak merasai duduk di asrama dan berdikari. Saya tak nak menyusahkan keluarga saya untuk bangun pagi untuk hantar saya ke sekolah. Jadi, saya fikir lebih baik duduk di asrama kerana ramai kawan. Saya rasa teruja dengan suasana di sekolah baru kerana rakan-rakan sekelas pun layan saya dengan baik. Saya ada 2 rakan baik sekelas saya, namun nama mereka ialah Sally dan Ayu. Mereka rakan baik bila saya susah bersenang bersama. Ada seorang cikgu mengajar selalu garang dengan rakan-rakan sekelas saya. Cikgu itu selalu memperbodohkan rakan-rakan saya. Dia selalu cakap, saya ajar monyet lagi pandai dari korang. Saya jawab, okey, saya jawab, dipersilakan cikgu keluar ajar monyet. Saya cakap begitu kepada cikgu. Selepas saya membagi tahu kepada cikgu sedemikian, cikgu pun terus keluar. Selepas itu, cikgu pun melayan rakan-rakan kelas saya dengan baik. Cikgu meminta maaf kepada rakan-rakan kelas saya, termasuklah saya. Naik ke tingkatan 2, murid-murid Melayu mula membuli orang asli. Mereka menyatakan macam-macam seperti orang asli suka makan babi, katak, monyet dan lain-lain lagi. Saya apalagi dengan hati yang panas, saya rasa marah. Kenapa suka mengejek kaum orang lain, saya cakap. Orang asli tak pernah mengejek orang Melayu. Kenapa orang Melayu perlu mengejek bangsa saya? Ada seorang ustazah ni pun tidak suka dengan orang asli. Tidak tahu kenapa. Orang menyatakan ustazah jijik dengan orang asli sebab orang asli makan babi, katak, monyet dan lain-lain lagi. Disebabkan itulah ustazah tidak suka dengan orang asli. Dengan hati yang panas, saya terus berjumpa dengan cikgu disiplin. Cikgu disiplin terus berjumpa dengan murid-murid Melayu yang suka mengejek orang asli dan juga ustazah itu, dan mereka diberi kaunseling. Dengan ini, harapan saya tidak ada lagi diskriminasi dari pelajar bangsa lain terhadap orang asli. Pihak Kementerian Pendidikan harus mengambil tindakan ke atas perkara ini agar tidak akan berulang lagi seperti yang saya alami di sekolah. Harapan saya agar cikgu memahami budaya masyarakat saya sendiri dan jangan menyinggung perasaan anak-anak orang asli. Sekian, terima kasih.
Can you say a lot of the book? Here it goes. The first thing the ghost said to Jess was,
Does your mother know you're a bunkit? The ghost said it was shocked. Unfortunately, it had failed to consider the possibility that Jess might not understand it. Jess understood most of the Hokkien spoken to her, but because it was only ever her parents doing the speaking, there were certain gaps in the vocabulary. Jess didn't take much notice of the ghost. She might have been more worried if she had been less busy. But in a sense, she'd been hearing disapproving voices in her head all her life. Usually it was her mum's imagined voice lecturing her in Hokkien. But the ghost didn't sound that different. Even so, the ghost's voice stuck with her. The line was still repeating itself in her head the next day, with the persistence of a half-heard advertising jingle. She was waiting with her mum for the guy from the moving company. Mum was going through the bags of junk Jess had marked for throwing away, examining each object and setting some aside to keep. Jess had spent hours bagging up her stuff. This second go-over was totally unnecessary. But it was a stressful time for Mum, she reminded herself. It was a huge deal to be moving countries at her age, even if she and Dad called it going home. Back to Malaysia, they said, as though the past 19 years had been a temporary aberration instead of Jess's entire life. We said we were going to cut down on our possessions, Jess said. I know, said Mum, but this hairband is so nice. She waved a sparkly pink hairband at Jess. You don't want to wear, Min? They gave me that when I was 10, said Jess. My head's too big for it now. Mum laid the hairband down, grimacing. But she couldn't quite bring herself to put it back in the garbage bag. Her innate hoarding tendencies had been aggravated by their financial instability. It seemed almost to give her a physical pain to throw things away. Maybe your cousin Chingy can wear, she murmured. Chingy is older than me, said Jess. She could feel her voice getting shocked. Patience didn't come naturally to her. She needed to redirect the conversation. The line came back to her. Does your mother know your Mom? Jess said in English. What does spunkit mean? What? Mom dropped the hairband, whipping round. What? Where did you learn that word? Startled by the success of her feint, Jess said, I heard it somewhere. Didn't you say it? Mum stiffened all along her back like an offended cat. Mum doesn't use words like that, she said. Whatever friend told you that word, you better not hang out with them so much. It's not nice to say. This struck Jess as hilarious. None of my friends speak Hokkien, Mum. It's a Malay word, said Mum. I only know it because my colleague told me last time. Hokkien? We don't say such things. Hokkien doesn't have any swear words, said Jess skeptically. It's not a swear word. Mum cut herself off, conscious she'd betrayed too much. But Jess pounced. So what does punkit mean? It took some battering before Mum broke down and told her. Even then, she spoke in such vague, roundabout terms. You know, these people, they have a certain lifestyle, that it took a while before Jess got what she was driving at. You mean like a lesbian, said Jess. Mum's expression told her all she needed to know. After a moment, Jess laughed. I was starting to think it was something really terrible. Mum was still in prim school mom mode. Not nice. Please don't say such things in front of the relatives. I don't know what you're worrying about, said Jess, bemused. If they're anything like you, I'm not going to be saying anything in front of the relatives. They'll do all the saying. Good, said Mum. Better not say anything if you're going to use such words. The hairband lay forgotten on the floor. Jess swept it discreetly into the garbage bag. Come on, focus, she said. This is taking forever. Remember, they're coming at 4.
Dalam perjuangan. Setelah fasis Jepun menyerah kalah dalam Perang Dunia Kedua pada tahun 1945 dan kembalinya pemerintahan British ke Malaya, aku pergi lagi belajar agama di bahagian Serai Perak selama 6 bulan. Kali ini aku pergi ke situ dengan ditemani oleh adikku Haji Ramli dan kawannya bernama Hashim Ghani. Adikku Haji Ramli dan Hashim Ghani menjual bubur kacang untuk menambah wang perbelanjaan. Sewaktu belajar agama di sekolah bahagian Serai inilah aku pernah mendengar ceramah dan penerangan tentang perjuangan menuntut kemerdekaan tanah air daripada penjajah British atau apa yang dikenali zaman itu sebagai soal gerakan nasionalis daripada anggota pimpinan Parti Kebangsaan Melayu Malaya PKMM iaitu Wahid Anwar. Parti Kebangsaan Melayu Malaya PKMM atau Malay Nationalist Party MNP pada ketika itu dianggap sebuah parti sayap kiri. Ramai orang-orang di tempat aku belajar itu yang menyokong PKMM. Sudah tentu ada juga pihak yang tidak suka. Dari sinilah bermulanya aku tertarik kepada perjuangan kebangsaan atau perjuangan untuk menuntut kemerdekaan. Aku berhenti belajar agama dan balik ke kampungku di Kuala Pilah. Pada tahun 1945 dan awal tahun 1946, iaitu sesudah tamatnya Perang Dunia Kedua dan kalahnya fasis Jepun di Asia, di Malaya buat pertama kalinya dalam sejarah telah muncul berbagai-bagai corak pertubuhan dan organisasi politik di kalangan orang Melayu. Dengan ringkas dikatakan bahawa di Malaya telah muncul parti politik yang bercorak kebangsaan yang memperjuangkan kemerdekaan tanah air. Pendek kata, suatu gelombang perjuangan untuk menuntut kemerdekaan tanah air atau suatu gerakan nasionalisme telah bermula di arena politik tanah air kita yang sedang dijajah oleh imperialis British. Sewaktu aku berada di kampung Gemuruh, Kuala Pilah, Negeri Sembilan, aku sering ikut dalam pertemuan yang dianjurkan oleh UMNO, iaitu kependekan dari bahasa Inggeris, United Malaya National Organisation. Sebenarnya dalam bahasa Melayunya ialah Pertubuhan Kebangsaan Melayu Bersatu atau singkatannya Perkembar. Tetapi pertubuhan ini lebih suka memakai nama UMNO. Seterusnya nama UMNO saja digunakan sehingga sekarang. Dari sejak itulah aku mula tertarik kepada gerakan nasionalis. Semangat aku untuk ikut memperjuangkan kemerdekaan tanah air semakin meluap-luap. Aku tidak tahu mengapa aku begitu tertarik kepada gerakan kebangsaan ketika itu. Mungkin juga unsur-unsur didikan nasionalisme yang pernah aku terima sewaktu aku belajar di Madrasah Tutu Dimiah Padang Panjang, Sumatera, dulu dikenali sebagai dengan nama Sekolah Agama Rahmah Al-Yunusiah. Selain daripada mendengar ceramah daripada kalangan orang UMNO, aku juga didatangi oleh wakil atau aktivis Parti Kebangsaan Melayu Malaya. Aku juga ikut dalam pertemuan yang dianjurkan oleh PKMM. Dalam satu pertemuan PKMM di Seremban, aku pernah membuat ucapan dan ucapanku itu telah disiarkan dalam surat khabar. Sehingga pertengahan tahun 1946, iaitu setelah berdirinya UMNO pada 11 Mei 1946, maka di Malaya ketika itu hanya ada 2 buah parti politik kebangsaan Melayu yang terbesar, iaitu PKMM dan UMNO. Apa yang aku ketahui bahawa PKMM telah ditubuhkan di Ipoh Perak pada tahun 1945. UMNO pada mulanya dipimpin oleh Datuk Ong Jaafar yang pada ketika itu menjadi Menteri Besar Johor sehingga tahun 1951. Selepas itu, Datuk Ong telah meninggalkan UMNO disebabkan cadangannya untuk membuka pintu UMNO kepada orang bukan Melayu ditolak. Setelah itu, UMNO dipimpin oleh Tunku Abdul Rahman Putra. PKMM pula dipimpin oleh Dr. Burhanuddin Al-Hilmi sebagai ketuanya dan Ishak Haji Muhammad sebagai timbalan ketua. UMNO terdiri daripada gabungan berbagai-bagai organisasi Melayu yang ketika itu dianggap sebagai parti politik sayap kanan Melayu dan pegawai tinggi kerajaan. Seperkara yang menghairankan dan yang menyedihkan ialah parti UMNO ini mengambil politik dan pendirian yang bekerjasama dengan penjajah Inggeris dan menentang parti dan pertubuhan kebangsaan sayap kiri. UMNO mula memakai semboyan hidup Melayu dan menentang semboyan merdeka. Dipandang daripada pengertian politik orang revolusioner bahawa UMNO pada masa itu adalah parti reaksioner. Sejarah telah membuktikan bahawa dalam perjuangan menuntut kemerdekaan tidak ada ahli UMNO yang ditangkap atau yang dipenjarakan oleh kerajaan British. Apatah lagi tiada seorang pun yang mati di tali gantung. Aku dan kawan-kawan seperjuanganku ketika itu merasa amat hairan terhadap politik UMNO yang ketika itu anti gerakan nasionalis, sayap kiri dan anti semboyan merdeka. Itulah politik UMNO yang sebenarnya pada ketika itu. Sepatutnya UMNO bersatu dengan PKMM dan pertubuhan lain yang memperjuangkan kemerdekaan. Tetapi sebaliknya UMNO telah bekerjasama dengan penjajah, menentang pertubuhan sayap kiri yang menentang penjajah pada masa itu. Parti Kebangsaan Melayu Malaya adalah parti politik yang bersifat kebangsaan yang progresif pada masa itu. Pada mulanya parti memperjuangkan politik Malaya Indonesia Satu, iaitu mahu Malaya dan Indonesia bersatu. PKMM memakai slogan mereka dan memakai bendera merah putih. Tetapi perkembangan situasi politik selanjutnya telah menghilangkan matlamat asalnya, iaitu Malaysia Indonesia Satu. Artinya PKMM tidak terus memperjuangkan matlamat itu. Secara ringkas, di arena politik tanah air kita Malaya hanya ada dua buah parti nasionalis yang saling bertentangan, iaitu PKMM dan UMNO. PKMM dianggap kiri dan UMNO dianggap kanan. Orang-orang dari parti atau pertubuhan kiri ini sentiasa difitnah oleh orang dari parti UMNO. Pihak kerajaan penjajah British pula sentiasa mengawasi dan menakut-nakutkan anggota-anggota daripada pertubuhan kiri. Dalam sejarah perjuangan kebangsaan zaman penjajah British berkuasa dulu, genggam tangan Lee, memberi harapan membunuh. Lee masih tidak dapat membuka mulut. Hari Laju ambulans terasa bagai bumi berputar perlahan. Air matanya berjujuran. Kami tiba di wad kecemasan Hospital Besar Melaka. Pintu gerbang kolonial hospital berwarna kusam seperti tidak mahu menyambut kami. Dan akhirnya ambulans itu berhenti. Menunggu dan menunggu. Servis kerajaan dengan kelajuannya yang ampun. Kami kemudian menyadari Lim cuma membawa beberapa helai baju bapanya dan kad pengenalan. Dan apabila pegawai hospital mendaftarkan bapanya dan meminta duit deposit kemasukan ke wad, air muka Lim runtuh berderai. Tidak dapat digambarkan kekecewaan. Pengurusan hospital tidak meminta banyak. Mereka sememangnya menyediakan harga subsidi warga negara. Tetapi malang sekali, Lim cuma budak 10 tahun yang tidak pernah meminta bapanya sakit dan memerlukan wang tunai. Lim sudah mahu rebah, tetapi sudah lupakah dia bahawa kebaikan harus berlaku di atas kebaikan? Lupakah Lim mereka pernah berkongsi wang untuk perjanjian setia perniagaan? Apatah lagi kini apabila salah seorang ditimpa malang. Aku sepatutnya telah dapat menduga. Tanpa ragu-ragu, dia meletakkan wang bercampur peluh lelahnya di telapak tangan Lim. Wang tebal berikat getah bercampur helaian merah, hijau dan biru. Lim memandang dia berkaca-kaca, menggeleng-geleng kepalanya. Tak boleh dia, ini duit kau untuk beli warna roni. Betul, ni duit aku dan aku pilih untuk bagi kau. Dia meletakkan wang itu semula ke tangan Lim dan sarangan dia disambut desakan Lim. Hari ini giliran Lim mengucapkannya dengan kasih sayang lurus seorang sahabat. Aku sayang kau, dia. Lim sudah kembali bertenang, terus menggenggam tangan bapanya. Wajah bapanya perlahan-lahan kembali merah dan dadanya berombak, tetap menandakan keadaannya sudah stabil. Bagaimanapun dia tetap memerlukan rawatan susulan. Lim kemudian memandang wajahku dan dia. Dia mengucapkan kata-kata yang mengejutkan. Doakan bapa aku, dia. Adi, doakan aku. Minta pada Tuhan Allah. Dia melihat Lim tenang. Baru aku sedar. Dia sudah mengetahui sekian lama bahawa Lim dan bapanya adalah sekelompok kecil manusia agnostik. Kerana desakan lingkungan, mereka bukan sahaja telah keluar daripada suku peranakan dan bercampur suku Cina lain, mengharapkan diterima sebagai sebahagian komuniti mereka. Malah, Tuhan adalah tinggalan zat yang mereka percaya wujud tetapi memilih tidak memegang apa-apa bentuk agama kepercayaan. Menganggap agama yang mereka kenal selama ini telah lama meninggalkan mereka. Betapa malang. Dia telah mengetahuinya lama, sejak hari pertama kami menjejakkan kaki ke rumah dia. Pada hari kematian Ui, hari yang sama dia melihat tiada tanda sama ada salib yang memegang jasad Jesus atau tempat sembahyang merah berserta colok dan sembahan limau Mandarin. Hari telah tengah hari rembang dan kami harus pulang. Kami pergi ke hospital di luar pengetahuan ibu bapa kami lagi. Takut-takut jika mereka mencari. Dia mengucap selamat tinggal dengan sulaman kata semangat tidak putus kepada Lim. Lim kini lebih tenang. Mungkin ada menyangka dia akan meratap hiba kerana tiada lagi harapan membeli warna-warna roni. Bahawa dia akan berputus asa kerana setiap usahanya sentiasa diuji Tuhan. Tidak sesekali, dia tidak akan kesal pemberian yang dibuat atas keluhuran budi dan semangat setiakawan. Semuanya telah berlaku di atas tangannya, juga pilihannya. Dia duduk diam di kerusi penumpang, melihat baki wang di telapak tangannya. Wajahnya cekal. Tinggal 2 hari. Sebenarnya 1,5 hari kerana 1 pagi mereka dihabiskan di hospital besar. Aku dan dia pulang menaiki taun bas buruk hijau dengan bunyi berderik sepanjang jalan. 1,5 hari sebelum pertandingan keramat dan di tangannya cuma ada modal duit harian. Dia kini harus mula kembali dari kosong. Kampung Moten menang dengan markah 2-1. Aku tidak mahu pertandingan ini berakhir. Aku mahu ia kekal selamanya. Mahu mengingati segala-galanya. Hari ini dia telah membuktikan kemuncak bakatnya. Bahawa kepintaran, pengetahuan dan pengalaman anak jalanan akan dapat menyelamatkan kau dari segala dugaan bencana. Sejak ketam itu ditangkap semalam, dia telah berlaku zalim, membekukan hatinya daripada memberi apa-apa makanan, mengharapkan ketam itu menjadi separuh gila, dan bertindak gila juga apabila ia didesak dan diserang. Dia tidak mengharapkan kepada saiz kerana fizikal besar tidak menjanjikan kemenangan. Ketam dewasa juga bermakna kerapuhan. Justru itu dia memilih ketam yang baru beberapa minggu bersalin kulit, yang lebih kuat dan punya daya tahan. Bukankah suku sudah jelaskan betapa bersinar cerlang sepitnya kawan? Daripada sinar-sinar wajah mereka, tidak kira mereka anak bekas tinggal kampung Jawa atau penyokong kampung Moten, kami mengira mereka berpuas hati. Mereka beransur dengan senyum membawa pulang kenangan. Kenangan beberapa hari ini akan diingat buat masa yang panjang. Lani
会快乐，我不能再恋爱了，我不能再恋爱了，我不能在那些可以追求爱情、幸福的人群里了。到底是什么鸟一直在窗外迟着不懈地啼叫？透明的晨雾注入房间，窗帘拉上又掀开，我的记忆就又死去一些。举目四望，蜘蛛的白色丝线任意的给风吹到哪里就是哪里。蜘蛛会修复世界上每样破碎了的白色东西，它能不能修复我胸刃底下的洞？既然骨头都是白色的。在阿青似乎无梦的日子，他外甥女却在天亮后记得更多的梦。比如有这么一天，外甥女跟他说的梦内容如下：我梦见自己在路上看到一只鸟，它跌在我脚前，我想让它躺好一些，小心翻动它，怕太粗鲁会夹住它的骨折。我不知道把它放在哪里，楼梯上、石灰栏杆上，那里比较好呢？每处都好脏。后来我决定还是把它放在地上，却发现它的胸前的骨头不见了。我回到原来的地方找，只找到了断了的鱼骨头。我把鱼骨摆进它胸腔里。这是一只鸟，它身体里面有鱼的骨头，它就活了回来，不痛了。它身上的疼痛似乎流淌自别出去。The next excerpt， 烟霾拖2个月，有那么一天，终于可以开窗，空气恢复，不敢置信。首先要把自己拉回来，我想，于是开始确认每件事物的名字，必须给他们一个位置，在脑海里。9年了，到底人变了什么？城市还是一般。单轨火车很慢，走也慢，班次又少，排队要进去也好慢。几年前，他有颗轮子从高空落下，砸伤一个英文报记者，所以才得慢慢走。系统受过伤，慢也好，你倒喜欢它慢下来。全世界都快，是太快了，突然好爽。列车在轨道上慢慢爬，好轻的车厢，可以感觉到它会晃。 停在星光大道上来好多年轻人。其实你早忘了多年前的事。如果不是因为外婆入院，情景又有点相似。外婆惊僵了好几天，等到她终于开口时，就说她要讲，把全部都讲出来。一三，她要趁自己记得时讲，不能委屈吞咽家族使人身上的污名。不甘心，如果不是听到这受冲击，你可能不会去想那件事。这么多年，你仍然人在这里，踩着同样缓慢的步伐过活。真正不一样的不是城市，而是你。既然人在同一处，你也终于变了，不同了。你从来不逃，对很多人来说，逃跑是很奢侈的选项。额头轻靠玻璃，空气跟玻璃一样，好奇怪。同样的车厢，那整好长的黑夜，不知什么时候离开了。你仍然记得，甚至历历在目，他却不再伤你，反而平心静气想，我也曾经这样，我经过了。Thank you。
ராஜாராம் சந்திரனின் நடவடிக்கைகளை கொஞ்ச காலமாக பார்த்து கொண்டுதான் வருகிறார். அவரிடத்தில் சில மாறுதல்கள் ஏற்பட்டுள்ளதை உணர்ந்தார். கலகலப்பாக இருந்தவர் அமைதியை நாடி பெருமையுடன் இருப்பதை தெரிந்து கொண்டார். பவித்திரனை அறவே கண்டு கொண்டதில்லை. யாராவது தூக்கி அவன் மடியில் வைத்தால் ஒப்புக்காக வைத்திருப்பார். பவித்திரனும் சந்திரனிடம் இருப்பதை விரும்பவில்லை. அவனை பார்த்தாலே பயப்படுகிறான். ராஜாராமும் பவித்திரனிடம், சந்திரன் உனக்கு அப்பா, அவனிடம் அன்பாயிரு, அவர் மேலே சாஞ்சிக்கோ, இப்படியெல்லாம் எவ்வளவோ சொன்னார். அவனுக்கு புரியவில்லை. புரிந்தாலும் சந்திரனிடம் அவன் ஒட்டவே இல்லை. சந்திரன் அவனை அன்பாக பார்த்தால்தானே அவனும் பாசத்துடன் இருப்பான். அவன் தான் தனியாக இருக்கும் போது பவித்திரனை பார்த்தால் முறைக்கிறான், வெறுப்பை கக்குகிறான். தம்பி ஏதோ மனப்பிரச்சனையில் உளறுகிறான் என்று மட்டும் ராஜாராம் புரிந்தது. ரேவதியும் இதை ராஜாராமிடம் தெரிவித்தாள். மேனகா கேட்டால், ஒன்றுமில்லக்கா, அவருக்கு ஆபீஸ் பிரச்சனை என்று கூறிவிடுகிறாள். கோகிலத்திற்கும் சாமிமூர்த்திக்கும் அவருடைய மாற்றம் தெரிந்தது. பிள்ளைக்கு ஏதோ நோய் வந்துவிட்டதோ என்று பயந்தார்கள். அவனிடம் விசாரித்தார்கள். ஆபீஸில் ரொம்ப வேலை, அதோட வேலை மாறி போக சொல்றாங்க என்று விஷயம் அறிந்து வீட்டில் உள்ளவர்கள் பதறிப்போனார்கள். தட்டி கழித்து விடும்படி கூறினார்கள். இந்த முறை கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டம் என்று அவன் கூறிவிட்டான். கூட்டாக இருந்த குடும்பம் பிரிந்துவிடப் போகிறதே என்று அஞ்சினர். பிள்ளை அதுதான் இப்படி ஒடுங்கி கிடக்கிறானா? அவர்கள் போய்விட்டால் பவித்திரனை இனி பார்க்க முடியாதே. கோகிலம் கண் கலங்கினான். ரேவதியும் சந்திரனிடம் பேசி பார்த்தாள். அவன் அலுவலக நிலவரத்தை காரணம் காட்டினான். தங்களை எல்லாம் விட்டு பிரிய மனம் வரவில்லை, அதனால் இப்படி சுருண்டு கிடக்கிறான் என்று நினைத்தனர். எல்லாரும் சந்திரனிடம் இடிந்து போன நிலைக்கு அதுதான் காரணம் என்று நினைத்தார்கள். ராஜாராமும் மேனகாவும் அதை நம்பவில்லை. பவித்திரனால் ஏதும் மனச்சஞ்சலம் ஏற்பட்டிருக்கலாம், அது ஒரு காரணமாகவும் இருக்கலாம். ராஜாராமிற்கு அப்படித்தான் நினைக்க தோன்றியது. மேனகாவுக்கு கணவனின் மனநிலை ஓரளவுக்கு புரிந்தது. பவித்திரனிடத்தில் அவர் காட்டும் வெறுப்பை தெரிந்து கொண்டார். அவனை கண்டால் முறைப்பதையும் கண்டிருக்கிறார். அவனை விரட்டுவதையும் பார்த்திருக்கிறார். தங்களுடன் அவன் படுப்பதை அவர் விரும்பவில்லை என்பதை அறிந்திருந்தார். இப்படியே விட்டால் அவன் மனநோயாளி ஆகி விடுவான் என்பதை நினைத்து பயந்தார். இதற்கு தீர்வுதான் என்ன? அவர் வெறுப்பது போல தன்னால் மகனை வெறுக்க முடியவில்லை. பல வருடங்கள் கழித்து தாய்மையின் ஒவ்வொரு கட்டத்தையும் அனுபவித்து உணர்ந்து ஆசையாய் ஆவலாய் பெற்ற மகனாயிற்றே. எவ்வளவு அழகாக இருக்கிறான், அறிவாக திகழ்கிறான், கொழு கொழுவென்று இருக்கும் அவன் வீட்டில் வலம் வருவதை பார்க்க எவ்வளவு பூரிப்பாக இருக்கிறது. அவன் பேசும் பேச்சை கேட்க இனிமையாக இருக்கிறது. அவனை நாளெல்லாம் கொஞ்சி மகிழ வேண்டும் என்று நினைக்கிறாள். இதையெல்லாம் சந்திரன் வீட்டில் இருந்தால் குறைத்துக் கொள்ள வேண்டியுள்ளது. அன்று இனிமேல் சொந்தமாக சாப்பிட அனுமதிக்காதே, நீயே ஓட்டிவிடு. சாப்பிடவில்லை என்றால் 4 அறை கொடு, இல்லை என்றால் பட்டினி கிடக்கட்டும் என்றாரே அவர். இப்படியெல்லாம் கூற எண்ணம் வருமா? அன்று என்ன செய்தார்? பவித்ரன் அறையில் மொட்டி போட்டு அமர்ந்து கீழே குனிந்து எழுதி கொண்டிருந்தார். அழகாக எழுதி கொண்டிருப்பதை பார்த்த அவர் அவனிடம் இருந்த பென்சிலை வாங்கி இப்படி கிறுக்கிவிடு என்று அந்த தாளில் கிறுக்கினார். பையன் முடித்தான். பிறகு தானே சின்ன சின்னதாக கிழித்து இப்படி நாசம் பண்ணு என்றார். சுவரில் பென்சிலால் கிறுக்கி இதை போல செய், கண்ட கண்ட இடத்தில் கிறுக்கணும். நான் சின்ன பிள்ளைகள் என்ன செஞ்சேனோ அதைத்தான் நீயும் செய்யணும், அதை தான் விரும்புகிறேன். எப்படி ஆங்காரமாக கத்தினார். பிள்ளை பயந்து போய் ராஜாராம் அறையில் புகுந்து கொண்டானே.
From Iban Woman in the trilogy. Jantan could barely hide his surprise when he looked about him at the other men in Nguyen's longhouse. He saw that many would not look him straight in the eye, and that others had turned their gaze down in shame. These men were clearly not happy to have a woman in their group. While Jantan was trying to think of a way to politely discourage the woman from joining them, his companion Chad said, "It is unheard of for a woman to go to war." Nguyen was about to explain when Ratai spoke up. "I was told by the rat demon that unless I join the expedition, all the men from this longhouse will die." Nguyen nodded to show that he agreed with her. Then he indicated with his hand to encourage her to continue. She must stand up for herself now, he decided, while he was still here to act as her sponsor. Otherwise, she would not be allowed to speak at all during the expedition. Ratai said, "My parents often tell me that I am a gift from Sempurai. Any man in this longhouse can be witness to my hunting skills." "Yes," Apai Bantat said, though with a slight hesitation in his tone. "She hunted her first pig earlier than my son. If she goes into the jungle, she never returns home empty-handed." Fighting down her shyness before the gaze of these two heroes, Ratai said, "I have been given the secrets of the mordant bath by the goddess Mani, and I was adopted by the goddess Kumar, who saved my life." The women began to take turns recalling the story of how she came out of her fever and of how successful the mordant bath ceremony led by her was. Jantan and Chad shared a look between them a number of times. Nguyen saw the reluctance on their face, so he said, "The omens for me were not good, and I was reluctant to let my men go without me. But Ratai, my daughter, received different advice from the rat demon. She was told to go save their lives." Chad fiddled with his fingers for a moment. Then he leaned forward and said, "But Tuai, I have never heard of a woman who goes to war with other men. Women do not go to war for the same reason that men do not weave cloth. The work for either skill is equally dangerous and strenuous, but they are not the same." The other men of their party nodded and mumbled among themselves. None had ever heard of a woman going to war. A woman may be exposed to war when her longhouse is under attack or when enemies come to her field, but her role had always been a defensive one. They conceded that the perfect woman was strong because she could carry heavy loads on her back, and that she was brave because she could face demons and spirits that tried to destroy her weaving. But war was the area of men. Jantan turned to Ratai to try and reason with her. "Are you not afraid that you might never be able to wield the bita again? How will you capture the spirits you weave if your arm is injured? Enemies are not like wild pigs or deer. They attack you with swords and spears. They will not run from you." Raiha hesitated for a moment. Then she said, "When Kumang adopted me, she told me that I will never weave a cloth." Chad said, "How is that possible? She is the goddess of the weave." "She is also the patroness of headhunters," Nguyen said. Chad was about to continue the argument, but Jantan stopped him with a touch on the shoulder. Then Jantan turned to Nguyen and said, "That is a good omen for the spirits. We will accept their blessings, in whatever form it may come." Nyaru the Agor said, "The spirits can see more than we can. Maybe the omens are strange to us now because we cannot yet see what is to transpire." The discussion naturally moved to Lao Moa's daughter, Lantong, who begot Tindin, who went on to become a famed warrior. Bantat looked pointedly at Ratai, as though to remind her of another brave woman who had kept her place in the home and passed on the warrior spirit to her son. Ratai could feel her ears growing red as she listened, but she kept her head up and her expression proud.
About the tadang, which is a big basket. It's a traditional North Borneo basket, about this big, round. My reading is about the tadang, which is a big North Borneo basket. From Jennifer's book. Initon, Blackened Tadang. The story of the tadang was related to me by my friend, the late George Mukunjil of Kampung Putuki, who had a small replica of the tadang Initon made by a very skillful craftsman in the 1970s. Although the replica is less than half the standard size, the weaving work and detailing is extremely fine and exquisitely finished. According to George, in the old days, the skill of a man in making a tadang was his ticket to securing a good bride. As George put it, in the old days they didn't say, "I love you," directly. They used their basketry skills to impress the girls. The boys even showed off their strength by carrying the tadang during paddy harvesting. A pagan rite called Moginakan was a 7 days and 7 nights ceremony where boys competed to be the first to finish a tadang. The preparation of the material, which is the sago frond, was done several months prior to the occasion. This entailed soaking the sago fronds in mud in order to achieve the blackened effect. After soaking, the fronds are molded onto a framework made of rattan rings in order to achieve the characteristic shape. On a daily basis, tadang was used mainly for carrying paddy or firewood. During the harvesting season, mitabang, the villagers would help each other by working on each other's plots. Every person's effort was measured by the amount of paddy they had harvested for their fellow farmers. The method of measurement was made easy by the horizontal scale on the outer part of the tadang. Each horizontal line represented satu gantang. This again tested the skill of the maker, as they had to ensure the line is accurate. Hence, when one person harvested, say, 10 gantang for a fellow farmer, when the situation was reversed, the latter would have to return the favor and harvest no less than 10 gantang. Satu gantang is a measurement equivalent to 14 level condensed milk tins.
Masterminding this, and of course I'm going to hand you over to the specific curators of today's program, Anne and maybe Nadira after this. I do want to personally say a word of thanks to Cheryl for calibrating the microphone at the right height every time. I'm a techie. I respect this. It makes all the difference for people who come to listen to. Okay. All right. I've also been told by Anne that after she speak to you for a little bit, that we're going to have a photo of the readers and the authors who are here. So those of you who are supposed to be here don't know what you go nowhere. Okay? And over to you.
Sorry. We just want to say thank you very much for coming. Thanks for bearing with the oopsie with the QR code and so forth. But please, also we want to get members for PEN Malaysia. So excuse me if I say please go to the Facebook page and join us. And we're on IG as well, not really TikTok. Nobody knows how to do it. But yeah, thank you very much all of you for coming tonight. And thank you, Sharon, again, Sandy, and Azliza also, because this is the team that keeps every month, and readings is very, very special for that. So thank you.
To add to that, I just want to say thank you so much to the organizers, but also very much to the writers, the ones who could be here, and the readers. It was just such a wonderful thing to be able to see diversity in action and to hear these women's voices and experiences. And so, if you would like to follow more of our events at PEN Malaysia, as Anne just shared earlier, please consider becoming a member or just encouraging your friends as well to join. Thank you so much for sharing your opportunity.
Okay, one here, 1, 2, one more.
All right. For the call for submissions. Yeah.